What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3GR, and I have another one of my own personal requested tops list videos to share with you guys today. Now this time I'll be going over my top 5 favorite stealth video games, or more accurately stealth franchises for video games. This list was requested by James V, so I want to thank him personally for giving me this idea. And this time I'm going to do things a little bit differently. For each of the individual selections that I have on my list, I'm going to state what the franchise is and then the individual game within that franchise that I like the most. So to start off really simple with number 5, I picked the Sly Cooper franchise. Now what I really liked about the Sly Cooper franchise is, for one, it is a PlayStation exclusive franchise, so, you know, Sony guy. I also like the style that the game looks like. It's, in my opinion, it's a little bit more cartoony, and I think that's what I really like about it. As something like Ratchet & Clank, although I like Ratchet & Clank a little bit more, that's done in a more, like, Pixar type of look. As for Sly Cooper, it's definitely much more cartoony. And I like the characters, and within the Sly Cooper franchise, I like Honor Among Thieves the most, simply because of the ability to play as alternate characters. And although you can do this with other installments in the franchise, I think I enjoyed it the most here because each of the individual characters that you play it through have their own strengths and weaknesses, as opposed to how it is like in the one where you have Sly Cooper playing different versions of himself like throughout time. So that is why Sly Cooper is on this list. Going into number 4, I picked the Deus EX franchise, most specifically Human Revolution. What I like about Deus EX is that there's a good balance of action and stealth. And it's really up to the player to choose exactly how they want to approach something. And although this is kind of like a generic tactic that a lot of stealth games do, as in like you have the choice, you can either just gun it or you can actually choose to stealth. It's kind of the objection of choice. It's wondering which approach is best. Because, you know, sometimes it's not always best to just go stealthing through the entire game. There are a couple sections where that's almost impossible. And so I like how the game has a good balance. And I also like that the newest installment had a really great story. Although the endings were a little bit funny, I think that's kind of one of the main traits that makes the franchise really stand apart from other games that try to replicate its type of storytelling. And that's why I really enjoyed playing the newest installment of Deus Ex and the rest of the franchise, which is what makes it number 4 on my list. Going on into number 3, I picked the Batman Arkham Asylum games, and most specifically the Arkham Asylum game, the first one. There's no question that out of any game of its type, in this particular category, the Batman Arkham Asylum franchise is the best comic book-based video game franchise of all time. I don't even think any other franchise comes close. I mean, I think maybe the closest would be, on an individual base, maybe the Spider-Man games, but even those are like maybe a couple steps below them. And I wouldn't even consider the Marvel vs. Capcom games be considered comic book games. But these games do Batman so much justice. They have great stories. They have absolutely great stealth tactics. I mean, when you play as Batman, you feel like you are Batman. You can approach a situation exactly as he does. And the combat system is phenomenal. I would even put it on par with saying it was one of the few games that actually redefined an element or genre of gaming. And that's really not something that we as gamers get to see throughout our lifetimes. I mean, I'm sure gamers that are like a lot older than I am, I'm sure they've seen it happen multiple times. But for someone like me, I've only seen it very few times. And usually when it happens, you don't realize it until after you've beaten the game. And that is, I hopefully will continue in the newest installment of Batman Arkham Knight when it comes out later this year in October. But that is why it is number 3 on my list. Going on into number 2, I picked the Assassin's Creed franchise. Assassin's Creed, I mean, hopefully it's not quite the Call of Duty version for Ubisoft, as in they said they want to release an Assassin's Creed game every single year, which, no, I got mixed feelings about that. But, you know, it's another one of those franchises. It is based around stealth. I mean, you know, there's a couple of instances where you'll have to take things out into the open, but basically the point of being an assassin is just use stealth tactics and take out your opponent. And I don't think it was done any more better than in my favorite installment, which was the newest that came out, was Black Flag. Because not only did it do everything that the previous games did well, it took it to a whole nother level, and they even had the audacity to add the naval combat system. And I was someone who wasn't a really big fan of the third installment, but I said that if they could build a game around that entire gameplay element, which they did, then it would be the best Assassin's Creed game of all time, and I stand by that decision. So not only can it do stealth relatively well, it can do a certain type of combat gameplay, which I don't even think we've seen done well or this well in any other game of its type. And that is why Assassin's Creed is so high on my list, and I'm absolutely pumped up for Assassin's Creed Unity. And I'm actually quite happy that I made a video a while back, like making a top 5 like time locations that Assassin's Creed should take place in, and I'm actually quite glad that I actually got it right for the next game, so I'm pretty happy about that. And that brings me to number 1. Now, I'm sure if you've been watching my channel long enough, I don't need to tell you guys what it is. I mean, it's not just my favorite stealth franchise of all time, it's my favorite gaming franchise of all time. I mean, I'm wearing it on my shirt, and heck, if you saw my room when it was back in Vegas, you know how much I love Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid is by far not just the best stealth franchise, it is the franchise that invented stealth games. Back during the NES days when, you know, games like this were just all about going around and killing everything in sight. And then this game comes along, Metal Gear, and it changes gaming forever. And heck, it's the only franchise, in my opinion, that can actually get away with how it tells its cinematic stories. I mean, some people have complained that, you know, the cutscenes are too long or the story is too complicated. Well, I'll tell you right now, I've never had those problems. I do not have a problem sitting down watching an hour-long cutscene. Heck, when that happened the first time, I just went out, got myself a bag of popcorn, and enjoyed myself. The stories are so engaging. The characters are so dynamic. They are so many different directions. It goes over so many philosophical ideas, not just about ourselves, but genetics, wartime, the war economy, nuclear deterrent. It goes through so many elements that I don't even think I've seen any other game go this step into being able to mix real life events into its own storyline. And I do not think any other game franchise in the history of gaming has been able to master that. Now, although I have myself not played Ground Zero because of personal reasons, and I'm waiting until they announce Phantom Pain's release, I have no doubt that Phantom Pain will continue the great chain of Metal Gear Solid games, and it's going to take stealth to a whole nother level, to a level which I myself haven't seen, but from what I've heard from people who've already played Ground Zero, it is going to be one hell of a ride. And with that, those are my top 5 favorite stealth games. And I really would like to know, what are some of your guys' favorite stealth games? Tell me your list in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to keep track of me in my future movie, video game reviews, and topic videos like this one. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.